Thanks so much, Carol. And Francis, thanks so much for joining us. And I know that you now have a new position. You're the UN High-Level Ambassador, Chairwoman of the Global Digital Finance Committee. So congratulations on that. We're excited to bring crypto into our conversation. But Carol and Tim were just talking about these 6 weeks of gains for the S&P 500. And it's so interesting. I feel like a forgotten topic is the inverted yield curve. Typically, historically, that would promise a recession. And yet all we're talking about is a soft landing. That's what stocks being higher would suggest. Where's the disconnect? How does it get solved?
Yes. So full disclosure, I'm not at optimal anymore, but thank you for your congratulations. And it definitely is a very interesting thing to look at. Right now, we had the longest inversion since 1929, and it's typically around the re-steepening that you get the recessionary dynamics, because it typically sets off and correlates with a rise in unemployment, which leads to recession and also can lead to credit problems. And there are some charts floating out there that says, historically, recession is imminent, and also the size of the drawdown corresponds with how long the curve was inverted. Now, we don't know whether COVID and sort of our attempt at modern monetary theory is going to change those dynamics, but it's going to be interesting to watch. When we look at that juxtaposed to the S&P 500, we had a double top, we had a higher high, and we've had a massive breakout. In order to have the mechanics of the yield curve inversion kind of play out, historically, we've had a catalyst. In the 90s, we had, Kuwait. And then in 2000, we had the tech bubble bursting. And then in 2006, 7, and 8, you had the housing bubble bursting, and then the massive global financial crisis. So we don't yet have a catalyst in play, even though we have a lot of risk.
Well, one catalyst that comes to mind, Francis, and excuse me for talking over you, but we do have the election. Now, it seems that things are going pretty smoothly. In fact, the VIX curve is coming off the highs, but that does seem like one possible catalyst, not to mention there are a lot of global tensions and the Fed not knowing how much activity that they're going to take. What are you seeing relative to the markets and the election?
Right. So the market's not really pricing, as you say, the market's not really pricing a lot of election risk in. I think the market genuinely assumes that both candidates are going to have higher fiscal spending. The higher fiscal spending has been the backstop of the Fed tightening. So it's putting liquidity in the system as the Fed has been removing liquidity from the system. And that has helped us stave off a recession. Also, differently this time, you have the Fed easing and pivoting ahead of any kind of massive recessionary indicators. You have the global money supply increasing, and you have global easing ahead of any sort of crisis for that catalyst for the yield curve. Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. Though there are some estimates due to recent rises in commodity prices that we could have headline inflation move up to 3% in Q1 of 2025. Yep. So the Fed has a difficult job ahead. Now, with the election, I think the only thing that would be a catalyst for a massive market sell-off is if you have a contested election and we don't know who the winner is.
Well, that's very interesting. We only have about 30 seconds, but we've got to get that digital, that crypto into it. I know that it's a part of the Trump trade. Are you seeing signs, or at least a lot of people saying it's a part of the Trump trade? Is that actually true?
Well, I think so. I mean, Trump is less antagonistic toward crypto because Biden and Harris have supported Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler has historically been pretty anti-crypto. Trump said, at some crypto conference that he would fire Gary Gensler. So there's that. He's obviously starting his own cryptocurrency. And so I think, you could say Bitcoin is pricing in either sort of a stagflationary scenario, or you could say that Bitcoin is pricing in a Trump victory. Obviously, the Vegas odds are appreciating Trump more than the polls are. So it's anybody's guess. We're going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Well, good stuff. Francis Newton Stacy, UN High-Level Ambassador and Chairwoman of the Global Digital Finance Committee. Thank you so much for joining us for Options Insight. Carol and Tim, back to you.
Just sharing a little bit of her resume, her old job and her new job.